November 20th, 2018. 90 seconds. That's all it took for audacious thieves to wipe one of Great Britain's greatest national treasures off the map. The culprits were caught, sentenced to prison terms, but the ultimate question lingered, unanswered. Where is the Portland Tiara? The official story insists that Cartier's masterpiece was ruthlessly cut apart, its diamonds, stripped of their name and history, dissolving into the black market. But what if this brazen heist hides something far deeper than mere greed? Today, we'll separate fact from rumor and try to understand how a treasure that survived coronations and the changing of eras could vanish so ignominiously in the 21st century. The dawn of the 20th century. Britain, having lived for decades under the shadow of strict and restrained Victorian rule, finally took a deep breath. Queen Victoria's death and the ascension of her son, Edward VII, marked the arrival of a brilliant new epoch. The air buzzed with anticipation of change, luxury, and unprecedented celebrations. Society, weary of prolonged mourning and puritanical morals, craved festivity. And the main event was to be the new monarch's coronation, the first in over 60 years. This occasion promised to be the apotheosis of Edwardian splendor, a demonstration of the empire's unshakable power. At the heart of this aristocratic whirlwind stood one of the most influential couples of their time, William Cavendish Bentinck, the 6th Duke of Portland, and his wife, Duchess Winifred. Beautiful, statuesque, and respected, Winifred was more than just a socialite. She held the high post of Lady of the Bedchamber and Mistress of the Robes to Queen Alexandra. Moreover, she was destined for a pivotal role in the upcoming coronation. Alongside 3 other duchesses, she was to carry the new queen's train during the sacred ceremony at Westminster Abbey. Such status demanded appropriate attire, and its crowning glory was to be a tiara. For the creation of this regal circlet, the Duke turned not merely to a jeweler, but to a true revolutionary in his craft, the House of Cartier. In those years, under the guidance of Louis Cartier, the Parisian workshop was experiencing its golden age, earning a reputation as the jeweler of kings and the king of jewelers. It was Cartier who first began to actively use platinum not as an auxiliary metal, but as the primary one. This light and durable material allowed for the creation of incredibly airy, lace-like structures that were unimaginable in heavy gold and silver. Thus, the famous garland style was born, inspired by Louis XVI's ornamentation, but executed with unprecedented lightness. The commission received from the Duke of Portland was both an honor and a challenge. It wasn't about creating a piece of jewelry from scratch. The Duke entrusted Cartier with family diamonds, stones with centuries of history, which needed to be integrated into a contemporary design. The task was ambitious, to forge a masterpiece that would reflect the grandeur of the Portland lineage, align with the latest fashion trends, and underscore the Duchess's special role at the decade's most significant event. This was more than just a commission. It was an act of self-affirmation, a political and social statement. The tiara had to be visible from every corner of the abbey. It had to sparkle brighter than the hundreds of other diadems that the kingdom's noblest ladies would wear that day. Its brilliance was to become a symbol of the Portland family's position, wealth, and impeccable taste. The Cartier jewelers faced the task not just of assembling a precious object, but of infusing platinum and diamonds with the very essence of the Edwardian era, its pride, its ambitions, and its boundless love for beauty. And so, at the intersection of a historic moment, the high status of the patrons and the genius of the jewelers, the destiny of a future masterpiece began to take shape. Work pulsed in the Parisian workshops. Ancient stones awaited their hour, ready to receive new life in a setting destined to become a legend. What was being born was not merely a tiara, but a symbol of an entire epoch, which, as it then seemed, would be eternal. Cartier's artisans didn't just assemble an ornament, they crafted a sculpture of light, weaving ancient stones into a design that was avant-garde for its time. Platinum served as the tiara's foundation, This choice was revolutionary. The metal, lightweight yet incredibly strong, allowed them to abandon the massive settings of the past and create an almost invisible framework, making the diamonds appear to literally float in the air as if woven from morning frost. This was more than just a tiara, it was a triumph of engineering and jewelry design. At the very heart of the composition, on its central axis, rested the legendary Portland diamond, a large, antique, cushion-cut stone that held the history of an entire lineage within its facets. Its deep, serene brilliance was like the gaze of a patriarch. Flanking it, like two loyal guardians, were two large, pear-shaped diamonds, each catching the light and responding with myriad cool flashes. This central cluster was not merely a collection of stones, but a conceptual core, a symbol of unshakable continuity and authority. Around this center, a true platinum lacework unfolded. The design was executed in Cartier's signature garland style, inspired by the elegance of the 18th century. Graceful swirls, floral motifs, and ribbons intertwined in an intricate yet harmonious pattern. The jewelers employed the milligrain technique, applying tiny beads of metal that created a velvety texture and blurred the boundary between stone and setting. Because of this, the entire structure seemed like a single, shimmering flow rather than a collection of separate elements. But the true life of the tiara came from its numerous dangling diamond pendants. Positioned throughout the design, they weren't statically fixed. Like dewdrops on a spider web, they trembled with the slightest turn of the head with every step their owner took. One can only imagine the effect this created in the flickering light of Westminster Abbey's thousands of candles. The tiara didn't just sparkle, it breathed, it lived, scattering hundreds of tiny rainbows around itself. It was a waterfall of light encased in an intricate platinum cage. Moreover, the tiara was a true transformer, underscoring its practicality and thoughtful design. For the most ceremonial occasions, such as the upcoming coronation, removable finials in the form of diamond clusters could be attached to its apex. These bestowed additional height and grandeur upon the ornament, transforming it into a semblance of a royal crown. But without these elements, the tiara became more understated and lighter, suitable for less formal receptions. It was not one, but two tiaras in one, capable of shifting with the mood and status of an event. Ultimately, the world saw more than just an expensive piece of jewelry. It was a masterpiece where every element held significance. The weight of the family diamond symbolized history, the revolutionary platinum setting a glance into the future, and the vibrant play of light, the very essence of the Edwardian era, its dynamism and its love for glitter. Duchess Winifred received not an accessory. She received a crown worthy of the role she was about to play in the history of the British Empire. August 9th, 1902. London held its breath in solemn anticipation. The air vibrated with the peal of bells, the clatter of hooves, and the ecstatic hum of the enormous crowds filling the streets. Westminster Abbey, a venerable witness to centuries, prepared to host its first coronation procession in 64 years. This was not merely a ritual, it was a manifestation of the new Edwardian age, promising sparkle, prosperity, and opulence, replacing Victorian restraint. Inside the Abbey, its own silent battle unfolded, a battle of fortunes, statuses, and of course, jewels. Aristocracy from across the empire had gathered to display their grandeur. In the shimmering light of candles and stained glass windows, a veritable ocean of diamonds gleamed. Ancient, weighty tiaras, passed down through generations, sat alongside newer, more lightweight creations. Every lady sought to outshine the next, and it seemed impossible to stand out in this constellation of brilliance. And then she appeared. Duchess Winifred of Portland. She didn't just enter. She carried herself with that innate dignity that marked the highest nobility. She wore a magnificent gown, but all eyes were drawn upward. On her head, in full coronation splendor with all its finials, shone the Cartier tiara. And in that moment, it became clear, game over. Unlike many others, her tiara didn't weigh her down with its mass. It floated, it breathed, it lived. Each of its diamonds, set in an invisible platinum setting, caught the light and transformed it into a dazzling flash. This was not just an accessory. It was a declaration of a new century in jewelry art. The culmination arrived during the most sacred part of the ceremony, the anointing of Queen Alexandra. As Duchess Winifred, alongside 3 other duchesses, raised the richly embroidered canopy over the Queen's head, her tiara found itself at the very center of the historic event. Rays of light, piercing through the ancient arches, fell upon the platinum lacework, and the ornament burst into fire, illuminating focused faces and casting glints upon the golden fabric of the canopy. In that moment, the tiara ceased to be merely the property of one family. It became a witness to and participant in a sacrament, inscribing itself into the annals of the British monarchy. After the coronation, everyone spoke of the tiara. Newspapers gushed with delight, describing its ethereal beauty and airy lightness. In social salons, whispers circulated about its cost and the impeccable taste of the Portlands, who had managed to combine centuries-old stones with an ultra-modern design. The ornament instantly became a benchmark, an object of imitation, and a subject of burning envy. On the day of its first public appearance, the Portland Tiara achieved an unconditional victory. From a mere product of a jewelry house, it transformed into a legend, a symbol, and an integral part of the British Crown's grandeur. The coronation was but a prologue. The true golden age of the Portland Tiara began the moment it became an inseparable part of its first owner's identity. For Duchess Winifred, it was more than just an ornament. It was a regalia, a symbol of her high standing at Queen Alexandra's court. For decades, the tiara accompanied her to all significant events, evolving from a fashionable masterpiece into a true classic and her personal calling card. It sparkled at state banquets, at receptions honoring foreign monarchs, at the annual ceremonies for the opening of Parliament. The tiara became an extension of her persona. Tall, statuesque, with an innate sense of self-possession, Winifred wore this majestic ornament with the effortless grace that distinguishes true aristocracy. She seemed to have been born for it. In official portraits and photographs of that era, she is almost always depicted in this very tiara, and over time, in the public consciousness, the image of the Duchess and the silhouette of her diamond circlet merged into one. When people spoke of the Duchess of Portland, they pictured precisely this brilliant aura. Yet, behind the ceremonial facade lay a deep and extraordinary personality. The glitter of diamonds did not obscure the real world for Winifred. She was a passionate animal welfare advocate, dedicating immense energy and resources to the cause, and remained a devoted lady-in-waiting and friend to Queen Alexandra until the Queen's final days. The tiara was part of her official role, which she performed flawlessly, but not her sole essence. This juxtaposition of the cool brilliance of high society and a warm heart full of compassion only added depth and charm to her image. This exquisite piece of jewelry wasn't just adornment, it was the very soul of its era. The Edwardian age, that final radiant burst of old Europe, was a golden epoch of serene opulence and unwavering optimism, an era blissfully unaware of the looming spectre of global warfare. And this tiara, with its ethereal lightness, airy grace, and dazzling brilliance, served as its perfect emblem. It was crafted for ballrooms bathed in the glow of 1,000 candles, for the whisper of silken gowns and the hushed intimacy of palace corridors. It stood as a valedictory hymn to a vanishing age of aristocratic splendor. After the passing of Duchess Winifred in 1955, the tiara descended through inheritance. It continued to grace the heads of subsequent generations of Portland women, unfailingly commanding admiration. Yet its primary, defining historical chapter had closed. No longer a cutting-edge fashion statement, it had transformed into a precious relic, a living testament to a resplendent past. That gilded age, inextricably tied to its original mistress, retreated into the annals of history and faded photographs, making way for a new role, that of a museum exhibit and a venerable keeper of memory. For over 100 years, the Portland Tiara's lineage remained as pristine as its diamonds. It was a chronicle of elegance, duty, and devoted service. But like so many grand treasures, it drew not only adoring gazes, but also a darker, predatory avarice. Its worth was tallied not merely in carats and historical provenance, but also in the cold, ruthless figures of the black market. And this secondary, shadowy value ultimately sealed its grim fate. The scandal erupted not in hushed palace antechambers, but under the shroud of night on the 20th of November, 2018. This was no mere robbery. It was an act of cultural vandalism, executed with chilling precision. The thieves, armed with specialized power tools and an intimate knowledge of the security system, sliced the tiara from its armored glass display case in a mere 90 seconds. Alongside it, an historic diamond brooch, also worn by Winifred at her coronation, was snatched. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment heist. This was a meticulously orchestrated operation, precisely targeting specific, priceless artifacts. The multi-year investigation eventually led police to a syndicate of professional burglars. In 2022, they were tried and convicted, receiving lengthy prison sentences. Their rap sheet boasted a series of audacious raids on the residences of aristocrats and celebrities alike. Justice, it seemed, had prevailed. Yet this triumph was tinged with a bitter irony, for the most crucial question remained unanswered. The culprits remained silent. Neither the tiara nor the brooch has ever been recovered. And it is here that facts give way to theories and somber conjectures, which together form the central enigma of this tale. The official, and most likely version presented by the police, is brutally prosaic. Iconic, globally recognizable jewels like these are impossible to sell intact. Their inevitable fate is immediate dismemberment. Experts believe the Cartier masterpiece was ruthlessly carved up, its platinum setting, a work of art in itself, consigned to the melting pot, while the diamonds, violently wrenched from their nests, were recut and sold off one by one, forever severed from their name and narrative. Yet, there always remains a flicker of legend, a haunting whisper of hope. In hushed tones, another scenario is floated. What if the heist was a commissioned job? What if, somewhere in the world, a billionaire collector, a modern-day Dr. No, desired this treasure solely for his private viewing, to admire it in the clandestine confines of his bunker, far from prying eyes? It's a beautiful, cinematic rendition, but one that shatters against the cold, hard logic of the criminal underworld, where historical significance almost invariably yields to the raw value of its components. Ultimately, the scandal of the Portland Tiara is not a tale of illicit affairs or political intrigue. It is a tragedy for our times, where a centuries-old heritage was annihilated in 90 seconds for the sake of quick profit. The shadows that have gathered around this treasure are those of an unsolved crime. The whispers now are not admiring sighs, but bitter debates over whether it could have been saved, and a profound lament for a beauty we will, most likely, never again behold. After decades of glittering social prominence, the tiara seemed to have finally found peace. It was no longer an accessory for a single woman, but a possession of the nation, taking its honored place in the Museum of Welbeck Abbey, the former ancestral seat of the Dukes of Portland. Protected by armored glass and an intricate alarm system, it rested on a velvet cushion, allowing thousands to marvel at its perfection. Its future, it seemed, was predetermined. An eternity as an untouchable cultural treasure, a serene existence beneath the glow of museum spotlights. This was its well-deserved epilogue. But its era didn't conclude with a gentle fade. It ended with a deafening, brutal rupture. The end arrived in 90 seconds. 90 seconds of the shrill whine of power tools tearing through armored glass. This wasn't the frenzied excitement of an auction, where a hammer announces a new owner. This was the sound of vandalism, the sound of violence against beauty. The moment the tiara passed from the hands of its guardians into the hands of its destroyers became its final public act. It was not sold, gifted, or inherited. It was ripped from history. The atmosphere following the robbery was steeped in shock and national humiliation. This wasn't merely a £3.5 million theft. It was an assault on memory, on a tangible fragment of British identity. News feeds exploded with headlines brimming with anger and sorrow. A pervasive sense of helplessness and irreplaceable loss gripped society, as if a masterpiece had been slashed from the National Gallery. The grandeur of a coronation, the elegance of the Edwardian era, the history of an entire lineage, all of it trampled by brute force in a mere minute and a half. From that moment on, its spectral life in the shadows began. The tiara ceased to be a physical object. It transformed into a collection of evidence, the central figure in a criminal case, black and white photographs on an investigation board. Its name now echoed not in society columns, but in police reports and court transcripts. It slipped into oblivion, but not the quiet oblivion of old things, rather into the grim underworld of crime, where most likely ruthless dismemberment awaited it. The epoch of its radiance ended not with a period, but with a bloody smudge, forever sealing the final chapter of its brilliant biography. And yet, paradoxically, the Portland Tiara returned to the world stage. Its second birth was not a triumphant appearance at a Christie's auction, nor a dazzling exhibition at the Metropolitan Museum. Its new stage became the news feeds of global agencies, its spotlights the flashes of police cameras, and its applause the millions of outraged and sympathetic comments across the internet. The tragedy of its loss made the tiara more famous than it had been in the last 100 years. From an object of interest to a narrow circle of historians and connoisseurs, it transformed into a global symbol, spoken of by all. This return fundamentally altered the perception of the masterpiece. If previously, gazing at its photographs, people admired Cartier's artistry and the elegance of the Edwardian era, now every image is imbued with a poignant note of tragedy. We can no longer simply view it as a beautiful object. Now, we see it as a phantom, a portrait of lost beauty. Every diamond, every platinum curl is now perceived through the prism of barbaric destruction. Its historical reading as a symbol of aristocratic grandeur has been replaced by a new one. It is now a monument to the fragility of heritage in the modern world. It was precisely at the moment of its destruction that the tiara's value reached its absolute peak. Not financial value, which was merely the cruel motive for the crime, but cultural, symbolic value. As long as it existed, it could be appraised, insured, catalogued. By becoming a legend, it became priceless. Its story, having received such a brutal and dramatic finale, transformed it from a mere artifact into a myth. And this myth proved far more powerful and enduring than any physical object could ever be. Its new life unfolds in digital immortality. High-quality photographs, archival footage, historical articles and documentaries, these are its current treasury. It has become one of the most recognizable jewelry phantoms on the internet. Every new mention, every video like this one, is a kind of séance, an attempt to summon its spirit and prevent its story from fading into oblivion. This is its new, virtual stage, where it has more viewers than it ever did at Westminster Abbey. And so, its second birth took place from the ashes and bitterness of loss. It returned not as a treasure of platinum and diamonds, but as an idea, a warning, an eternal reminder that the greatest creations of human hands can be annihilated in an instant. And in this tragic immortality lies its final, melancholic victory. So where, then, is this treasure kept now? The answer to that question is both simple and agonizing. Physically, it is nowhere. The Portland Tiara no longer rests in the velvet embrace of a private collection or behind the bulletproof glass of a state treasury. Its home is a void. Its current whereabouts are a gaping hole in Britain's national heritage. a phantom limb pain felt by all who cherish history and art. Its status has changed, definitively and irrevocably. From a dazzling accessory, it transformed into a museum exhibit, and from an exhibit into an intangible artifact. Now, its repositories are the archives of Scotland Yard, the pages of jewelry history books, the digital servers holding its images, and our collective memory. It has become proof, sad and irrefutable, of how fragile greatness is and how easily it can be reduced to dust. How do we appraise that which no longer exists? At the time of the theft, its insured value was approximately £3.5 million sterling. But today, that figure means absolutely nothing. The true value of the Portland Tiara was multifaceted. The first layer was the cost of the stones and platinum themselves. The second, far more significant, was the genius of the jewelers at the House of Cartier. The third, historical, was its provenance, its unbreakable link to the coronation of Edward VII and the lineage of the Dukes of Portland. But the robbery added a final, fourth layer, the mythological. Its tragic fate, its transformation into a ghost, rendered it utterly priceless. The cost of its loss cannot be measured in money. Today, the Portland Tiara is not merely a piece of jewelry. It is an idea, a legend, a cautionary tale. And this status makes it one of the most expensive treasures ever lost to humanity. Today, its sole custodian is history itself. And in this spectral vault, it will reside forever, inaccessible to thieves, yet open to the imagination of everyone who hears its story. And so, we return to the question where it all began. Where is the Portland Tiara? The answer, cruel in its simplicity, is that it no longer exists. It is not hidden in a secret collection. It is not biding its time in a bank vault. Its physical existence has been terminated. The criminals, blinded by the glitter of diamonds, failed to see beyond them to the most important thing, the soul of the masterpiece. They thought they were stealing wealth, but in reality, they committed an assassination of beauty. This, then, is the main conclusion of our story. The Portland Tiara was not simply a collection of precious stones and platinum. It was the physical embodiment of a whole spectrum of human passions. Within it were frozen the ambitions of a duke, wishing to underscore the grandeur of his lineage. In its lines lived the genius of Louis Cartier, who pushed the boundaries of jewelry art. In its radiance reflected the pride of the Edwardian era, the last peaceful summer of old Europe. And finally, in its tragic fate, was captured the basest of passions, destructive, mindless greed. In destroying the tiara, the thieves paradoxically achieved the exact opposite of their intent. While it existed merely as a physical object, it was vulnerable. It could be stolen, broken apart, or melted down. But once transformed into a legend, it achieved true immortality. Its story, now stripped of its material casing, resonates louder than ever before. It has become a myth, and myths cannot be dismantled with a power saw or peddled on the black market. This story serves as a bitter mirror reflecting our own times. It is a narrative of the eternal clash between creation and destruction, between patient artistry and the fleeting thirst for quick profit. The fate of the Portland Tiara is a poignant reminder that humanity's greatest cultural treasures are fragile. They demand our protection, our reverence, and above all else, our collective memory. For memory alone is the only vault that can never be plundered. And as long as we recount and heed this story, the spectre of the Portland Tiara lives on, its brilliance outshining any diamond. They believed they were obliterating a treasure. Instead, they merely rendered it immortal.